Hey, how's it going? So I think Charizard is still kind of just as good as it ever was. The format didn't change all that much. Dragapult didn't turn out to be as dominating of a force as we thought it was. And even if it did, I don't think the matchup is necessarily terrible unless they all start playing TM Devo, then it could get really rough. But we have Charizard that is a 330 hit point stage 2 dark type Pokemon with the ability that lets us search our deck for 3 fire and attach them how we want when we evolve to it. And the attack for 2 fire does 180 plus 30 more damage for each prize our opponent's taken. So still just an insane attack, insane ability, broken card. Pidgeot is our engine. It lets us search our deck for any card we want once during our turn. You can only use one Pidgeot ability each turn. We have Bibarel for the games that we can get it out for a little bit of extra backup. Lets us draw to 5. And the Charmeleon. This Charmeleon is really key. I would like to play another copy of the Charmeleon that does 70 damage for the stall matchup, but I couldn't find the space for it, and I didn't think stall was all that popular. But this Charmeleon has the ability that prevents all effects of attacks to it, so it can't be affected by TM Devo. Sableye and Dragapult can't put damage on it. It's just really good. We have Radiant Charizard for the end of the game to kind of throw a 1-prizer into the active and do big damage. Does 250 for a fire and 4 colorless, and then costs a colorless less for each prize our opponent's taken. The new cards we have are Kieran and Unfair Stamp. Kieran is a switch effect, or we get to do 30 more damage to our opponent's active EX and V Pokemon. So that can be really good. It can let us hit 330 on opposing Charizards without them having to go to 1 prize. And it's just generally useful. Unfair Stamp, of course, if one of our Pokemon were knocked out. Last turn, each player shuffles their hand into their deck. We draw 5, our opponent draws 2. So it's nice drawing an item, and also good disruption to just be able to reset our opponent's hand to 2 and stick a 330 HP Pokemon in the active and just start swinging for knockouts. We have Temple of Sinnoh for Lugia, and Collapse still is in there to clean up the Rotom or the Lumineon off our bench. And other than that, the deck is kind of the same as normal. You could cut Cleffa for Jirachi or the other Charmeleon, the one that does 70 damage, but I kept it in there for now. So let's get into the games. We're up against Gardevoir here in this first game, and I won the coin flip, chose to go second. They went first and benched these 2 Ralts and attached to their Cresselia. And yeah, this is where the recording picks up. So I just played an Arven for Poffin and Forest, and now I'm debating what to get out. I was thinking about going super greedy and getting like a Bidoof or something, but I don't think they're going to knock out, because I don't think they're going to knock out any of my guys next turn. But I decided to just get double Charmander and instant charge, or an Ultra Ball for a Rotom, because my hand was pretty dead. We started Lumineon, which sucks. I was having a rough time just like starting Lumineon a lot of games. You know, it's just the way it goes sometimes. And I don't expect to be attacked this turn. This is one of like the nice things about playing against Gardevoir, is you know you kind of get to chill for a turn without them putting on too much pressure, even though them setting up in the background is kind of pressure on its own. And they're just going to TM Evo. Now, I'm really hoping for a top deck this turn. If not, though, I can always Forest for a Candy, and then oh, I prized the Bidoof. That's why I didn't get it out. I forgot that that was this game. But I can fill my bench up here so that I can collapse away my Lumineon. And I can Forest for Candy, and then Candy out Pidgeot, and then use Pidgeot to get Candy and Ultra Ball for Charizard. It's kind of a convoluted turn, but it's just the way it's going to have to go. I could have also got Arven there, but there's really no need, I guess. I don't know. I probably should have just got Arven and pulled the Defiance Band out of my deck as an extra Ultra Ball target. Then I could have kept around this other Ultra Ball for a rainy day. Yeah, now I'm just going to grab Candy. I can start attacking. This is kind of weird sequencing here. Normally you would collapse first before letting your opponent know that you have all these extra cards. Like, you know, you're going to double Rare Candy. But I wanted to collapse away my Lumineon, which, I don't know, maybe I should have just played the collapse right after using Artisan. but they're always going to pick Rald, so it really doesn't matter in this exact situation. And I wanted the Lumineon off the board. Rotom could just generally be more useful of a card. And I also would like to super add the Lumineon back into the deck at some point, just to have an extra way to get a supporter card. But they do hit me with the Unfair Stamp. I have Pidgeot though, so it doesn't really matter that much. I can just get whatever card I want. Probably an Iono to just refill my hand and start working on that. And I don't think that they have enough energy to knock me out. They only have 4, I believe. And they do need 5. They need to put 5 energy on the Drifloon and then move 30 over with the Monkey Dory to knock out my Charizard. They're moving the damage over to my Rotom though. Oh yeah, it's because they don't have a Bravery Charm. I wonder if this is the list without too many Bravery Charm. It might be. But they Turo up their Gardevoir EX, which is a little bit interesting of a play to be doing this early in the game. Usually you save that for the end game, I guess. I don't know, that's kind of a fair time because it's not like their Drifloon is built up to one-shot my Zard or anything right now. And I just Pidgeot for Iono, thin out my hand, draw into a fine hand for next turn. I can start doing some stuff. It does kind of suck. I really wanted to be able to get out a Charmeleon this turn, just to have it sitting on the bench ready to go, because I'm kind of worried that they're going to play a TM Devo, and a TM Devo right now would really suck. I could get, like, it would generally be fine. I could just Arven for another rare candy and then Pidgeot for a second one, but that's all my rare candies, so that puts a lot of pressure on me to get the Charmeleon out. They immediately have the Super Odd Nest Ball. There goes our Arvens, but we do draw another one, which is very nice. And now this matchup is just kind of boring from here. It just turns into like us attacking back and forth, and whoever doesn't have it first kind of loses. They do have the upper hand right now though, because they could knock out my Charizard here and go down to 2 prizes, whereas I could only go down to 1 unless I boss up their EX, because they are going to have to evolve up to an EX this turn to get an attack off. But they do evolve the Active Guardy, that makes sense. I think they end up attacking with the EX this turn, which is kind of interesting, because they were so worried about last turn me not being able to knock out the EX. Now they're just going to give it to me for free. It does kind of make sense though, because they won't have to put the EX back into play next turn, and they will be able to just knock me out with that Drifloon. But they are just giving me a free 2 prizes this turn and not making me have to work for it, so now I can use my Pidgeot for other stuff. Like, they don't know I have a boss in hand. But I'm just kind of debating what to do. I definitely want to get out a Charmeleon. Hopefully, yeah. Just going to Pidgeot for it. I don't really feel like Ultra Balling away any of these cards. I kind of like all these cards. I could maybe Arven for Defiance Band and thin that and the fire energy out of the deck, and then just super add it back in, but I don't think it looks like that's what I'm gonna do. I do just want the Lumineon. Oh, I have other fires. Yeah, I wanted just Lumineon and other fires back in the deck, just in case. But I could just knock out this EX with weakness. I'm really just kind of playing really slow here. It's kind of annoying to watch. Jeez, that's not good. So I finally get my Bidoof out of the prizes, and they promote the Drifloon. We already know what they're going to do this turn. They probably want to Iono me as well. Now, like I said, I have a Pidgeot in my hand, or in play, so I can get any card that I want. But of course, they're not going to put a 2-prizer in play, which is going to make it so I can't win the game next turn. So I need to kind of figure out a way to make it so that they can't win the game next turn, which is why I attached that fire energy to the Charmander, so I could knock out this Drifloon with a 1-prizer. And I think I make a mistake here. Really, what I probably should do is just evolve the bench Charmeleon to a Charizard and Turo up the Pidgeot and knock out this Drifloon with my Charmander, I think. But I end up doing something else, and I don't really know if it's correct or not, because I decided that I want to Iono instead of Turo, which definitely could end up being better. And I'm just debating benching the Bidoof, because I don't know why I'm doing that, honestly. I'm going to evolve to this Charizard anyway, and that's just another liability to get stuck into the active. And that's my thought, so I immediately go to grab 3 fire energies. So I was going to put one onto the Bidoof, but I don't do it. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't like played too much Charizard before this, so this is kind of me getting used to the deck. The deck's a little weird. I'm kind of overthinking everything, which I tend to do. I've been trying to work on that for a while now, but I just still do it. I don't know why, because every time I stop thinking too much into things, I end up making stupid mistakes. So then I go right back to it. It's kind of a terrible cycle, because it ends up making me play way slower than I would like to play. And most of the time, I end up doing my first thought anyway, or I'll think about stuff so long that I forget why it's not correct to do something, and then making a misplay because I overthought it. But they Arven for Bravery Charm, and I thought that this was kind of game over, and I almost conceded because I was kind of doing the math a little bit wrong. They needed more energies than I thought. I think they would need 8 Psychic in the discard to knock out my Pidgeot with the Scream Tail. Yeah, because they can put it up to 120 if they move 30 over. They would need 2 more energy to get it to 130, and then they could knock out my Pidgeot if they do that. But they don't. They just move the 10 over because they only have 1 more energy in the discard. So now they're going to be 10 damage short, which is kind of unfortunate for them. And you can kind of see why Guardy wants extra damage banked up in play now, because if they had more damage in play, they could have just moved even 10 more damage and another dark energy. They could have moved the damage over with the other Monkey Dory and knocked out my Pidgeot. But we end up kind of squeaking that one out. That was a really close game. I did start Lumineon, which made it probably way harder than it needed to be. But yeah, on to the next game. So once again, I won the coin flip and chose to go second here. I don't think that there are very many matchups that you want to go first with this deck. You really want to try to get an Arven turn 1, and really you just want to set up, and you should be able to beat a lot of things. But I started popping, so I'm just going to get out double Charmander. I was thinking about getting a second Pidgey, but that really wouldn't do anything, because if they attack next turn, they're going to knock out both of my Pidgeys, and that would just suck. So I might as well just leave the 1 Pidgey. And kind of the same logic goes, I could retreat it, but then they would still just knock out the active and my bench Pidgey, which really sucks. I'm just kind of hoping they don't get an attack off next turn, which is, there's pretty good odds of that. The Dragapult decks don't attack turn 2 all that often, especially if they didn't get an energy attachment turn 1. Because candying out 2 stage 2s without a Pidgeot in play is really difficult. And they bench the Rotom, which kind of signals to me that they're not really planning on attacking this turn. They know it's probably not going to happen. It's extremely unlikely, which has kind of been my problem with Dragapult, which was why I was personally liking the Charizard version the best, because at least you can attack with something on your second turn, and you can also bank an energy onto a Dreepy or something for later. But they Iono'd me into a much better hand. I can candy into Pidgeot and then candy into Charizard and Iono for a whole fresh hand. So that's pretty good. I could have... Nope, that's pretty much all I could have done. Yeah, I was going to say I could have bossed, but there's no way that I could boss with this hand. And I'm always kind of unsure of how many energy to get with Charizard. I've been leaving some in the deck, but also making it so if I wanted to, I could attack with just an attachment. And I always consider as well putting some energy onto the Pidgeot, but then they get stuck there and I don't know if that would be very good. Now I think I'm just going to knock out this Dreepy. I probably should have attached the Forest Seal Stone. I don't think a lot of these decks are playing Lost Vacuum. They could be, but I think it's a little more likely that they unfair stamp me if they play it. But also a lot of some of the Charizard Dragapults that I saw were playing Neo Upper Energy still. So this is one of those awkward matchups where you're really unsure of what ace spec your opponent's playing, and one of them's kind of inconsequential and the other one could be pretty devastating. But they instant charge again. That is not great. Yeah, they definitely want to be attacking by now for at least some amount of damage, or at least with the Charizard. I know that they're not like most likely to attack with a Dragapult yet, but you at least want to be hitting with a Charizard by now. And I'm kind of unsure of what to grab with Pidgeot here. My plan for this turn was to unfair stamp them if they like, so I was kind of thinking that they would boss or something and start attacking, but they didn't do that. So I just opt to bring up the Dracloak with the energy and throw a Sinnoh in play so that it makes it that much harder for them to attack if they were relying on the Neo Upper Energy to attack my guy. I don't even know if they played or not, but there's definitely decent enough odds that they were reliant on a Neo Energy this turn. Kind of unfortunate. If Dragapult was more consistent, it would be a really fun deck. It'd probably be extremely annoying to play against, but it would be a very fun deck to play. The spreading damage is always fun. It just kind of adds extra level to the game and makes for more interesting lines that you could do. Like if they were attacking with Dragapult by now, they'd be really close to just wiping my board of all my stage 2s with a TM Devo, and then I wouldn't be able to do anything. Like if they could have done that by now and just left me with a Rotom in play, that would be pretty terrible. But now I have my Charmeleon that was prized, so I can evolve that and not have to worry about the risk of them using TM Devo on me. And I do top deck the Unfair Stamp, which I don't know, it's kind of lucky, but I was going to grab it with Pidgeot anyway. Pidgeot's kind of a ridiculously broken card. You just get whatever you want every turn. It's kind of insane. That's a big part of why I was playing this deck. I wanted to practice the Pidgeot decks to get in the mind of the Pidgeot players, because the decks are really annoying to play against, and when you learn how to play a deck, it usually makes it a lot easier to play against the deck in the future. When you know, like, oh, it would be really terrible if my opponent did this. When you think that when you're playing the deck, then when you're playing against it, you can know the times to do that. But I bring up the Rotom to knock it out because I have Kieran in hand, and what I'm thinking is hopefully they take 2 prizes next turn. So either I knock this out and then 2-shot their Zard or the Dragapult, or they knock out my Pidgeot, which I think that they would be pretty inclined to do now that I'm down to 2 prizes. They could counter catcher or boss, and I can just Kieran and knock out their Charizard EX. And I also, if they reset my hand, I do have outs to Lumineon for the Kieran. But they do play Arven. But for Prime Catcher, that's the ace spec that they're playing. That is very interesting. I did not expect that out of all the ace specs they could have been playing. But they do knock out my Pidgeot. And now I can just Kieran and knock out their Charizard. I'm just double checking everything, so I'm always kind of paranoid. But it'll be a perfect 330 damage to knock out the Charizard EX and win the game. So that was Charizard. Like I said earlier, I think that the deck's still kind of insane, like really good. I think people are starting to play it a little bit more. I also think it probably would have done way better at NAIC if more people had played it. Because Guardy isn't the worst matchup in the world, and Lost Box is, I don't know, the Iron Thorns can make it a little bit hard, and not playing Jirachi can make it a bit rough. But if you throw a Jirachi in there, you're probably beating Lost Box. And I don't know, just generally without the Roaring Moon or any way to one-shot a Charizard, I can't imagine that the matchup is all that terrible as long as you don't overbench. Just like throw a bunch of Pokemon in play for Sableye to pick apart. But I don't know, that's kind of the cool part about Charizard. You can always just add a couple extra cards depending on what matchup that you're worried about, like Jirachi for Lost Box. We have Sinnoh right now because we're worried about Lugia. You could cut that for, you know, a TM Devo if you're worried about other Charizards, and so on. But hope you guys enjoyed the deck and have a good one.